noticed he was getting mighty good, very good. I just loved it. I never had liked, well, they hadn't been anything like rock and roll before Buddy.
For decades, the world has celebrated Buddy Holly as a rock and roll legend, a trailblazer whose music changed the course of history. Tragically, his life came to an untimely end in a plane crash on February 3, 1959. Now, after years of silence, Buddy Holly's brother is breaking his silence, pulling back the curtain on a dark truth that could rewrite everything about Buddy's life, career, and tragic end. What secrets has the family kept hidden? Stay with us as we uncover the story that will leave you speechless. Buddy Holly's love life. On August 15, 1958, Buddy Holly married Maria Elena Santiago, a receptionist at a New York record studio. The ceremony was held at the Tabernacle Baptist Church in Buddy's hometown of Lubbock, Texas. Just a year later, in 1959, Maria Elena was expecting their first child, but tragically, she suffered a miscarriage shortly after Buddy's untimely death. They had been married for only 6 months at the time. Buddy's iconic song, Peggy Sue, was inspired by Peggy Sue Garin, a school friend he knew while she was dating Jerry Allison, a drummer. The two had a playful and flirtatious connection, which led Buddy to write the song in her honor. Peggy Sue Garin and Jerry Allison married on July 22, 1958, and the two couples, Buddy and Maria Elena and Peggy Sue and Jerry, embarked on a honeymoon to Acapulco, Mexico. However, Buddy's marriage to Maria Elena was not without controversy. It was often described as distant and strained, with rumors suggesting that they were heading toward divorce. In the second half of 1958, Buddy even suggested to Peggy Sue that she should divorce Jerry due to his drinking, but she refused. Interestingly, Peggy Sue would later divorce Jerry Allison in 1965, despite it going against her Catholic beliefs.
Texas, and have I got news for all you fans of Buddy Holly. Seems that Buddy's gone and got himself a recording contract with Decca Records of Nashville, Tennessee. How about that for a good old boy?
In December of 1958, Buddy Holly recorded a demo of one of his final songs, Peggy Sue Got Married, which was based on the relationship between Peggy Sue and Jerry. This recording gave a personal insight into Buddy's world. Buddy Holly was not just a musician. He had a fierce, independent spirit. While many remember him for his stylish appearance and his geek-chic persona, those who knew him understood that he was also deeply rebellious. At a time when artists had little control over their music, Buddy fought hard to take charge of his career. He pushed against the limitations imposed by record labels, even cutting ties with Decca Records over artistic disagreements. Buddy's determination to control his music helped pave the way for future musicians, showing them that they could write, produce, and perform their songs. Beyond his mastery of the guitar, Buddy had a love for unconventional instruments. He used a rare keyboard instrument, the Celeste, which was almost unknown at the time, to record his song Every Day. This was not just a one-off. It was a glimpse into the future of music. Buddy was a visionary who wasn't afraid to experiment and break new ground, challenging the boundaries of what music could be. His bold approach to music and his fearless spirit continue to inspire artists to this day. What is the true story behind Buddy's tragic end? Let's find out. The mystery behind Buddy Holly's death. Buddy Holly had made a reservation for a Beechcraft Bonanza, a small plane that could hold 4 people, through Dwyer Flying Service in Mason City, Iowa. This was for him, Jennings, and Alsop to use on February 2, 1959, the day before they were set to perform at the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa. Holly had a suggestion. Instead of taking the long bus ride to Moorhead, Minnesota, he proposed they fly there from Clear Lake, with a stop in Fargo, North Dakota, to rest, clean up, and get some sleep. Allsup agreed to flip a coin to decide who would sit in the fourth seat with Richie Valens after their Clear Lake show, which ended just before midnight. After winning the coin toss, Valens allegedly said, "That's the first time I've ever won anything in my life." This was after Valens had made a name for himself in Fort Worth, Texas. Allsup, who eventually opened a bar and restaurant called Heads Up Salon, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson, who was battling the flu and found the bus uncomfortable, both accepted the seat swap. The Big Bopper was willing to take Waylon Jennings' seat on the plane despite the bad weather. The pilot, Roger Peterson, took off, but he was not certified to fly by instruments alone. It took Buddy Holly's brother, Larry Holly, a whole year to get the report from the Civil Aeronautics Board. The report mentioned that the plane had a new Sperry gyroscope, which worked differently from other gyroscopes. With this device, the plane's movements appeared the opposite of what the pilot might expect. If the plane was still, the backdrop would shift, and if the plane was moving, the backdrop stayed still. The pilots may have read the device's movements incorrectly, thinking they were still climbing when they were descending. Tragically, Holly, Valens, Richardson, and Peterson perished in a plane crash just 5 miles northwest of Clear Lake shortly after takeoff, around 1 a.m. on February 3, 1959. The three musicians suffered severe injuries and were thrown from the wreckage during the crash. Holly, at just 22, lost his life along with his companions. 2 months after the accident, a farmer found Holly's firearm, sparking rumors that the pilot had been shot and that this caused the crash. However, an autopsy conducted on Richardson in 2007, at the request of his son, found no evidence of foul play. Dr. Bill Bass, a forensic anthropologist from the University of Tennessee, confirmed that Richardson died instantly in the crash. Buddy Holly's funeral took place on February 7, 1959, at the L.C. Tabernacle Baptist Church. The same minister, Ben D. Johnson, who had presided over Holly's wedding just months earlier, led the service. Holly's pallbearers included fellow musicians like Sonny Curtis, Bob Montgomery, and Jerry Allison. Despite Phil Everly of the Everly Brothers being present at the funeral, he denied being one of the pallbearers. Waylon Jennings couldn't attend, as he was still committed to the Winter Dance Party tour, which was traveling through Lick, Texas. Holly was laid to rest in the city's eastern section at the Lick Cemetery. His gravestone features his last name, spelled correctly, along with an image of his iconic Fender Stratocaster guitar. Upon hearing the tragic news, Santiago, who was close to Holly, turned on the television only to suffer a miscarriage the very next day. Holly's mother, devastated by the loss, went into a state of hysteria. In the wake of the disaster, new policies were put in place by some government officials to ensure that the names of victims were withheld until their families were notified. This change in procedure was in response to the emotional toll of Santiago's miscarriage. To this day, Santiago has never visited the funeral or Holly's grave. Buddy Holly's mysterious glasses. The story of Buddy Holly's iconic glasses is as intriguing as the man himself. After his tragic passing, these glasses seemed to vanish, as though lost forever in the pages of history. Shockingly, they were rediscovered over 2 decades later, tucked away in a judicial storage box. However, their rediscovery was only the beginning of a new chapter filled with drama. A fierce legal battle erupted between Buddy's widow Maria and his parents, both claiming rightful ownership of these legendary frames. In the end, Maria was declared the rightful owner and decided to honor Buddy's legacy by donating the glasses to the Buddy Holly Center in Lubbock, Texas, where they are now displayed as a symbol of his enduring influence on music and culture. Buddy's life wasn't just about music. It was a complex mix of triumphs and struggles. His family life was far from picture perfect. His relationship with his brothers was often turbulent, fueled by professional rivalry and unresolved emotional tensions. Despite this, Buddy's natural charm and mischievous spirit shone through from a young age. As a student, he was both gifted and a prankster. While his antics often frustrated his teachers, they made him a favorite among his classmates, who loved his playful nature. What many people don't know is Buddy's fascination with the supernatural. He had a personal collection of books about mysticism and unexplained phenomena. At one point, he even visited a fortune teller to gain insight into his career. The fortune teller issued a dark and ominous warning about his future. At the time, Buddy laughed it off, not realizing how hauntingly accurate the prediction would prove to be. In 1986, The New Yorker honored Holly's contributions to music, reflecting on the treasure trove of material he left behind. This included unfinished recordings, handwritten transcriptions of new compositions, informal jam sessions with his bandmates, and demo tapes of songs he had crafted for other performers. These rare items offer a glimpse into his creative genius. Thanks to the enormous demand for Holly's music and his prolific recording sessions, his label was able to release new albums and singles throughout the 1960s. Norman Petty, Holly's former producer, played a key role in assembling these posthumous releases. He meticulously worked with previously unheard material, including studio masters, alternate takes, audition tapes, and even rough, low-fidelity recordings dating back to 1954. One of Holly's most notable posthumous albums, Giant, was released in 1969. Among its tracks was the song Love is Strange. But how was Buddy's journey to stardom? Let's find out. Charles Hardin Holly's life. Buddy Holly, born Charles Hardin Holly on September 7, 1936, in Lubbock, Texas, came into the world surrounded by music. Growing up in a musical household, Buddy was immersed in tunes from a young age, quickly realizing how powerful a great melody could be. His parents, Lawrence and Ella Holly, had no idea that their fourth child would someday change the face of American music forever. While Buddy's mother stayed home to care for the family, his father worked in the tailoring industry. Despite their modest life, music was always a big part of their home. As a child, Buddy's two older brothers were his first music teachers, showing him the basics of playing guitar during the family's cherished jam sessions. These impromptu musical moments sparked Buddy's deep passion for music. By the time he reached high school, Buddy's love for music had grown even stronger, especially for the emerging genre of rock and roll. It was a new sound taking over the nation, and young Buddy couldn't get enough of it. Little did anyone know, this new form of music would soon become the stage for Buddy to make his unforgettable mark on the world. From a young age, Buddy Holly developed a deep love for music, and his admiration for Elvis Presley played a significant role in his early life. As he grew, Buddy realized that music was far more than just a hobby. It was his true calling. His passion for music led him to team up with his childhood friend Bob Montgomery, and together they began performing at local events, quickly earning the nickname Buddy and Bob due to their performances. Buddy was born into a family where music was cherished by everyone, and there was no way he could avoid following in their musical footsteps. The Holly family was full of talent, with nearly every member able to sing or play an instrument. This shared love for music was evident in the way the older Holly brothers took part in local talent shows. Buddy joined them on the violin for one of their performances. However, since he didn't know how to play it very well, His brother Larry would help by oiling the bow to keep it from making any noise. The Holly brothers won that competition. When World War II broke out, Buddy's older brothers, Larry and Travis, drafted into the military. While serving in the Pacific, Larry bought a guitar from one of his fellow soldiers and brought it back with him when he returned home. Inspired by this, Buddy's interest in music grew even more. At the age of 11, his mother suggested he take piano lessons, which he did for a short time. However, after just 9 months, Buddy stopped playing the piano when he saw another student on the school bus playing and singing along with a guitar. This sparked an interest in him, and Buddy decided to switch to learning the guitar. Buddy's parents initially gave him a steel guitar, but he longed for a guitar like the one his brother had. This small change marked the beginning of his journey to becoming the legendary musician he would soon be known as. Travis was the person who taught him how to play the acoustic guitar that his parents had bought for him from a pawn shop down the street. The sounds of famous musicians like Hank Williams, Jimmy Rogers, Moon Mullen, Bill Monroe, Hank Snow, Bob Wills, and the Carter family filled Holly's childhood and inspired his love for music. Holly first met Bob Montgomery while they were both students at Roscoe Wilson Elementary School. They quickly became friends and started playing music together, practicing songs by Johnny and Jack, as well as the Louvin brothers. During this time, they would listen to 3 important radio programs: the Grand Ole Opry on WSM, the Louisiana Hayride on KWK, and Big D Jamboree. These shows introduced them to the world of country music and helped shape their musical journey. As Holly got older, he began collaborating with other talented musicians. He met Sonny Curtis and Jerry Allison during his high school years, and together they formed a strong connection through their shared passion for music. In 1952, Holly, along with his friends Neil and Jack Neal, participated in a local talent competition on a television show. They performed as a trio under the name Buddy and Jack, marking an important step in Holly's musical career. Did Buddy's achievement come without any hurdle? Let's take a closer look. Buddy Holly's initial challenges and victories. After graduating from Leck High School in 1955, Buddy Holly decided to pursue music full-time. One of the main events that inspired him to follow this path was seeing Elvis Presley perform live in Lubbock. The show was organized by his friend, Pappy Dave Stone, from radio station KDAV. This experience made a huge impact on Buddy, fueling his passion for music. In April of that year, Buddy Holly had the chance to open for Elvis Presley at the Cotton Club, and in February, he also performed at the Fair Park Coliseum. He would return to the Coliseum again in June. By this time, Buddy had already formed a band, bringing in Larry Wellborn on stand-up bass and Allison on drums. His musical style had shifted from country and western to rock and roll, largely influenced by seeing Elvis perform and listening to his music. In October, Dave Stone arranged for Buddy to open for Bill Haley and his Comets, a major opportunity for exposure. Around the same time, Buddy caught the attention of Nashville scout Eddie Crandall. Impressed by Buddy's talent, Crandall convinced Jim Denny, the manager of the Grand Ole Opry, to help Buddy get a recording contract. Stone sent a demo tape to Denny, who passed it on to Paul Cohen, a representative from Decca Records. After listening to the tape, Cohen offered Buddy Holly's band a recording contract. However, when the contract came through in February 1956, there was a small mistake. Decca had misspelled Buddy's last name as Holly instead of Holly. From that point on, he became known as Buddy Holly, a name that would carry on throughout his legendary career. Before signing with Decca, Buddy had briefly performed with a bluegrass band. But his future in rock and roll was just beginning to unfold. Buddy Holly began experimenting with his style of music after realizing that his early recordings didn't attract much attention. He dreamed of breaking through and making a name for himself. His big chance arrived when a talent scout from Decca Records offered him a contract, but the road to success wasn't easy. Decca ultimately decided not to renew his contract after a series of recording sessions that failed to produce standout results. However, Buddy didn't give up. He returned to Lubbock, where he formed a new band called the Crickets. Although he wasn't completely satisfied with his situation, he wasn't defeated either. It was with this new group that Buddy finally found the success he had been longing for. The Crickets' unique mix of rock and roll with a touch of country twang connected with audiences in a way that no one had expected. The band's first big hit, "That'll Be the Day," became a game changer. Inspired by a memorable line from the classic John Wayne movie, The Searchers, the song quickly climbed the charts and became a global sensation. It wasn't long before Buddy and the Crickets found themselves at the peak of national fame. Once "That'll Be the Day" hit, there was no looking back for Buddy Holly. His life in the spotlight had just begun. After their early success, Buddy Holly and the Crickets released more hit songs like "Oh Boy" and "Peggy Sue." Their appearances on major national TV shows, such as The Ed Sullivan Show and American Bandstand, helped solidify their place as rock and roll icons. Their music, which stood out due to Buddy's distinctive voice and his unique vocal style, drew large crowds of devoted fans eager to see them perform live. With their popularity soaring, Buddy Holly and the Crickets went on to release even more songs, many of which would become timeless classics. Tracks like "Rave On" and "Maybe Baby" became anthems of the rising youth culture of the time. Their music was unlike anything heard before, blending rock, rhythm, and blues, and country in a way that felt fresh and innovative. What set Buddy Holly apart from other artists, however, was his skill as a songwriter. Unlike many of his contemporaries who relied on outside songwriters, Buddy took control of his music by writing most of his songs. This creative independence allowed him to leave behind a legacy of original hits that would continue to influence and inspire music for decades. Buddy's image and style. Buddy Holly's unique singing style stood out because of his signature vocal hiccups, a distinctive technique he picked up after hearing Elvis Presley perform on The Hayride Show in 1955. Holly also switched effortlessly between his regular voice and falsetto, adding even more character to his songs. His stuttering vocal delivery was perfectly matched by his rhythmic and percussive guitar playing, which included techniques like striking single notes, bending them, and playing rhythm and blues-inspired chord patterns. Holly often used vigorous downstrokes on his guitar, which blended seamlessly with the steady beat of drummer Jerry Allison's percussion. Holly's relationship with the Fender Stratocaster became an essential part of his identity as a musician. He purchased his first Stratocaster, a 1954 model, at Harrod Music in his hometown of Lubbock, Texas. This guitar became his trademark and helped him shape a unique sound that combined chunky, rhythmic strumming with high-pitched, melodic lead notes. Sadly, that guitar was stolen during a stop in Michigan in 1957. To replace it, Holly bought a 1957 Stratocaster in Detroit just before a show. Throughout his career, Holly owned several Stratocasters, 4 or 5 in total, which he used to craft his groundbreaking music. In the early days of their career, Holly and his band dressed conservatively in business suits. However, that changed after meeting the Everly Brothers. Don Everly took the group to Phil's men's shop in New York City, where he introduced them to trendy Ivy League-style clothing. The Everly brothers also suggested Holly swap out his old-fashioned glasses for more stylish, horn-rimmed frames, which had recently gained popularity thanks to TV personality Steve Allen. Holly followed their advice and bought a pair of bold, horn-rimmed glasses from his optometrist, Dr. J. Davis Armistead, in Lubbock. These glasses, originally made in Mexico, became so iconic that teenagers across America began requesting similar ones. Over time, they came to be widely known as Buddy Holly glasses. After Holly's tragic plane crash in 1959, most of his belongings were recovered, except for his signature glasses. For decades, they were thought to be lost. However, in 1980, Sheriff Gerald Allen discovered them in a storage area at the Cerro Gordo County Courthouse. It turned out the glasses had been found shortly after the snow melted in the spring of 1959 and handed over to the sheriff's office. They were mistakenly placed in an envelope dated April 7, 1959, along with other items, including the Big Bopper's watch, a lighter, dice, and part of another watch. When the county moved courthouses, the envelope was misplaced. After a legal dispute, Holly's glasses were eventually returned to his widow, Maria Elena Santiago, a year later. Today, they are proudly displayed at the Buddy Holly Center in Lubbock, Texas, serving as a lasting symbol of his legendary career. What do you think about this unexpected revelation by Buddy's brother? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.